The Honorable Deputy Minister for Information, Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Benito Usubio, Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable George Miracle Duka, Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, friends from the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I thank the Ministry of Information, led this morning by my sister, the very supportive and dignified Deputy Minister Fatima Abubakari, for giving us this platform to update the Ghanaian people on the state of our nation's forest reserves. I'm also extremely grateful to you, the media, for always responding to our invitation and carrying our message to every part of our country. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we called you here this morning to brief you on the state of our nation's forest reserves as part of our efforts to regularly update the nation on the management and utilization of our natural resources. Why do we do this?
As you are aware, the natural resources of our country are, by the dictate of our national constitution, the property of the Ghanaian people. As trustees of these resources, we have a duty to account to you, the beneficiaries of these resources. You will recall that we undertook a similar exercise last year when I led the three main commissions under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, namely the Lands, Minerals, and Forestry Commissions, to brief the nation through this medium on the various programs and policies that were being implemented to effectively and efficiently manage our natural resources. It is in that same spirit that this press briefing is being done. This year, we are beginning with the Forestry Commission. In the course of time, the Minerals and Lands Commissions will follow suit, where hopefully we will get the opportunity to address the vast national issues of illegal mining, galamsey, and land administration. Of course, forestry issues are directly related to mining, and thus today's briefing will definitely address some of these mining-related matters. But before I invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission to present a detailed briefing on the state of our nation's forest reserves, let me begin by giving some brief context. A couple of weeks ago, the world celebrated International Day of Forests under the theme, quote, Forest and Health, end quote. And next month, specifically on June 9, 2023, we will be undertaking the third edition of the Green Ghana Day under the theme, quote, Our Forest, Our Health, end quote, where we have committed to plant some 10 million trees in support of government's aggressive afforestation and reforestation program. Members of the media, our forests are some of the most important forests in the West African region. While we acknowledge the gravity of forest loss and its adverse consequences on our very survival, let us face the facts. Deforestation and forest degradation, sadly, are not new phenomena in our country. For instance, in 1900, our forest cover was estimated to be in excess of 8.2 million hectares, largely covering the whole of southern Ghana. Close to a third of this was lost by the middle of the century, mainly through agricultural expansion and infrastructure development. And by the end of the century, in 2000, we had lost approximately 60% of this forest. Available statistics also shows that between 2010 and 2015 alone, we lost on average over 28,000 hectares of our forests each single year, peaking at 35,000 in 2014, largely due to illegal mining, galamsey, and illegal logging. Attempts by successive governments to come to grips with this menace has seen mixed results. Indeed, in the 2012 Forest and Wildlife Policy, the then Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Mike Hammer, my predecessor, in his foreword rightly bemoaned that, and I quote, the implementation of the 1994 Forest and Wildlife Policy, with all the associated reforms, could not halt the degradation in the forest resource base. Illegal mining, galamsey,
and chainsaw operations in forest areas have thrived over the years despite conscious national efforts to curb the situation in collaboration with the security agencies, end quote. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, I make these references not to apportion blame and or pass the buck, but to be able to marshal a critical mass of support for government's policy in this very crucial sector. We have to set all the facts, including the historical antecedents. That is the best way to chart the future. I do not, therefore, seek to justify the continuous degradation of our forests, but to let you appreciate the enormity of the problem we are dealing with and its attendant complexities. It is a historical challenge. We require a concerted and determined effort to clamp down on deforestation and the degradation of our nation's forests. And we will continue to do just that. At the heart of these various illegal enterprises, as you know, is money. And once we are dealing with money, you can be rest assured that the cartels operating in our forest reserves will find every means of outwitting our efforts. But let me assure you that the government of President Akufo-Addo remains absolutely determined to protect and preserve these resources for current and future generations. We will not relent. The fight against these illegal enterprises and the cartels in our forest reserves will not be an event, but a process. What is important is the commitment to protect and preserve these resources, which we are fully determined to do. We remain focused on this goal. That is why, in addition to all the measures we are putting in place to protect our forest reserves, including the suspension of recognizance, prospecting, and/or exploration in forest reserves, except in exceptional circumstances, the ban on the harvesting, salvaging, trading, exporting, and importing of rosewood, and the ban on the issuance of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora CITES permit for the export of rosewood. We have also embarked on an aggressive afforestation and reforestation program through initiatives such as the Green Ghana Project, the Forest Plantation Strategy, the Youth in Afforestation Program, the Youth in Plantation established as an occupation program, the Youth in Plantation, the Ghana Red Plus Strategy, and the Forest Investment Program. Through these initiatives, we are, by the day, increasing our forest estate while protecting existing ones. For example, under the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy, a total of 547,891.7 hectares of degraded forest lands were cultivated between 2017 and 2021, far in excess of the 157,300 hectares of forest cultivated between 1963 and 2016, a whooping period of 53 years. Members of the press, I will yield the podium to the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission to present to you the state of Ghana's forest reserves. But before I do so, let me assure you of our commitment, the commitment of President Akufo-Addo, to the effective and efficient management of the natural resources of our country, in the spirit of transparency, integrity, candor, and utmost good faith for the benefit of our nation. Let me emphasize that we remain focused on this goal. I call on you, nationals and residents of our country, to support government in this quest, for respectfully, after all, the responsibility to protect our forest resources, while at the same time taking measures to add on, is a national, non-partisan, and a truly collective effort. We need to, and we will work together with a sense of determination to enable us achieve our objectives. At this stage, let me thank the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission and his officials for their outstanding contribution in our national effort at protecting the forest resources of our country. The nation salutes them. With this, I now invite the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, Mr. John Alote, to present to you the state of Ghana's forest reserves. Before I thank you for your attention, my hostess and boss, the Deputy Minister Fatima, has insisted that given that UTV and Adom TV and other Tree speaking stations are covering this event live. It will be useful to translate, to summarize my presentation in Tree. And so, the dika me damu nyina ase. Na the obofo amowa ye besre se mo manato ye mindful say. Ene ye babe chichi mo akire Ghana man. Ekwan a President Akufo-Addo aban e fa so a ye bo ye kwaye ho ban. Na seni amu nyina amu nim no e ba kwaye ho nsem ene ho mfaso ne ho sunsuanso ene emoa edema eman no a ne kwan so ase Ghana fo dodo na no e ba sa nsem na e ha mo bebri forest reserves yi be call forest reserve na omo ye galamsey ye say ye kwaye omo do eku adwuma fo omo so say kwaye omo si adan omo say kwaye enti omampani Akufo-Addo wa hye ama ye adwuma say ye mfa ekwan papa so na yembo ye kwaye ho ban na nyese ye bo no ho ban ko a ye bo ho ban ne so no na ye tu anamo de hihye to kwan mu a ebema ye dua nnua aka ho na ye kwaye no abedoso ene ye ntimi nka ne bebre na ukọ amanoni bebi bebre a eba amaye omo bo omo kwaye ho ban a metumi aka nsisu se amansan fo nyina age etum se Ghana man ye bo ye ho ban pa na ohwe bebi ti se Congo the Congo basin ana Brazil the Amazon ana Indonesia ana Gabon and several other places almost acquire akese bebre obi age tum se Ghana ban ene Ghana fo nyina konya ye fa so e de bo ban no ni nyina no eboa bebre enti owura Mr. John Alote oye Chief Executive Officer of Forest Commission oba be chirechiremu akire eman no enhyehyeye a ye de egu kwan mu a ye de bo ye forest reserves ho ban na wasa so akire ne akonyina be sinne ne bruni be kase the state of our nation's forest reserves na me de ma asem ba wiye no me ne CEO of Forest Commission any Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on the instructions of President Akufo-Addo agye atum se ye ba be ka se ne yetie akire mo ne kore akire mo kwaye bi wo ho a aseye a ye be ka mfoni kura ye be yi akire mo kwan en fa so a ye de kura saa forest reserves no eno so ye be ka akire mo ye be ka mu ni kura pefi na ne kura no so no ya sere mo moa enam se kwaye ne ye be bo ho ban a ebegyina ye nyina so omampanyi wo na hyede na aban wo na hyede me osoafo me o ma hyede Forest Commission CEO on na hyede na ani di mo amesre se Ghana manfo ene nipatitru a omo wa man mu ye nyina wa hyede ahemfo wa hyede assembly fo wa hyede aman mafo so wa hyede se nyina be kai ho abom na yabo ye kwaye ho ban na yakoso so aduanua na June 9 bosumi a ye be abewura mu emu eda enkono ye ba be ye Green Ghana Day a ya hye se ye be dua enua 10 million trees and ye be sere se obia de no ho begim nyame ya adoma bosumi a ye wura mu yi asante hene otumfo se tutu age etum se ono obepa 2023 Green Ghana Day edition obepa hontoma ama eman ni nyina ya ka bom ne abo the forest reserves ho ban ne edua enua ama Ghana afa ne ntoma pa afria. So with this I thank you for your attention.
Okay. So I stand on the protocols already established and present to you on behalf of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Samuel Jinapor, the state of the nation's forest. My presentation will be looking at the forest cover, the forest uses and the social and economic contribution, the drivers of deforestation and forest degradation, law enforcement measures that have been implemented, how we will improve regulation and management in the forest area, the challenges we have, and then the way forward. From the onset, I would like to say that this is the first time we've carried out a comprehensive, assessment of our forest. And this was done under the auspices of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, using the Forestry Commission, its agency, in collaboration with the UK Space Agency, the Forest Research Institute of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the University of Edinburgh, and a company in Glasgow called Ecometrica. This assessment looks at the satellite imagery that is used to assess the total forest in Ghana. This also happened with the agreement of the criteria that will be used. And this criteria was agreed with the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So if we look at the size of Ghana, Ghana is about 23.8 million hectares. That's the total size of Ghana. Out of that, we have our forest. As we speak today, in 2021, the size of the forest is about 6.6 million hectares. 2015, it was about 5.8 million hectares. Let me also explain one other aspect. The criteria used also clearly explain what would be described as a forest. And to describe a place as a forest, the place must have a minimum size of 1 hectare. So if you have a place that is smaller than 1 hectare, it cannot be described as a forest. The trees that are planted there should have the capacity to develop and grow to a minimum of 5 meters. It should also have a canopy cover of not less than 15%. So this is the criteria that is used to determine the size of the forest. So the size of the Ghana's forest today is about 6.6 million. 2015, it was about 5.8. 2019, it increased to 6.5. And as we speak today, there has been an improvement to 6.6 million hectares. To go into the details, we realize that the closed forest was 1.4 million in 2015. As we speak today, it has reduced to 1.2 million. Whilst the open forest has increased from 4.3 million in 2015 through 6.5 million in 2019 to 6.6 million. What it means is that whilst the total size of the forest is increasing, the quality of the forest is reducing, which means that there are more open spaces. The canopy is reducing. What it also means is that we are getting more forest area that has gone through excessive degradation. What it means also is that if you have the forest, we are losing more of the content of the forest, but not the size of the forest. The other information is also there to give you an idea of the other land uses that we have. So for instance, if you look at food crops, the size of food crops, the size of the land that has been taken over by food crops has moved from about 4.4 million to 4.5. That is an indication of the impact of agriculture on the total land of Ghana. So what it means is that the land cover is giving you an idea about the various land uses and which one is ceding space to the other land uses. We can also see that bare surface has increased from 28,000 hectares in 2015 to 62,000 hectares in 2019 to 62.5 hectares in 2021. What is telling us that we are having more open spaces in Ghana now. It may also be a pointer to the fact that other land uses and then other impacts like Galamsey are opening up more bare surfaces. So that is an indication. we can talk about cocoa, shaded cocoa. Shaded cocoa is an area, means that we have trees on cocoa farms. One of the strategies that the Forestry Commission through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and then Cocoa Board, one of the projects we are implementing is to plant at least minimum of 18 trees per hectare in cocoa farms. You can see its impact that in 2015, the shaded cocoa was about 649,000 hectares. It improved to 748 hectares in 2019 and is around 723 hectares in 1,000 hectares in 2021. What this means is that since 2015, we've continuously been improving upon the number of trees we are planting in our cocoa farms. And this provides the necessary microclimate for cocoa to thrive. So you can bear that if you cocoa is not doing well in some part of the country like Greater Accra and other places because we don't have that kind of microclimate that the forest provides for cocoa development. Let me now move to the information on the forest and wildlife reserves. We have together about 309 areas that have been reserved. Out of that, through Cap 157, that's the Forest Act of 1927, 266 forest reserves have been gazetted. 222 forest reserves have been proposed for gazetting. So the process is going on to gazette these forest reserves. We also have 21 wildlife protected areas. In all, we have 309 areas that have been reserved as either a forest reserve or a wildlife protected areas. This include the Ramsar sites we have, which are about 5 of them. We have national parks, resource reserves. All these ones have been created based on international criteria. I'll also introduce you to the uses of the forest and the socio-economic contribution of the forest. As we speak today, the timber extracted from the forest earns averagely around $200 million per annum. Beyond this, we have about 800 million Ghana cedis production for domestic market. This is in cedis. The other one is in dollars. The export figure is in dollars. As well, we have non-timber products coming from the forest. We can name some of them like medicinal plants, the rattan and bamboo, the other wild fruit species and other non-timber products that are extracted from the forest. We also have food production. As we implement our plantation strategy, we implement the strategy called the modified tonga system, and this allows us to plant intercrop the plantation seedlings with food crops, especially within the first 3 years of production. We have bush meat and other nutrients also coming from the forest. All these ones are what we call consumptive uses. Once you consume them, they are gone. Once you cut a timber tree, it is gone. Once you take away the bamboo is gone. Another one has to be planted, or another one has to develop. But we also have some other uses and benefits from the forest which we do not consume. We continue to benefit from those items. For instance, we have the watersheds that the forest provide a conducive environment for our watersheds. And if you go around all the water bodies that we have in Ghana, the sources are from the forest. and most of them run through these forest reserves. So when we maintain and protect the forest reserve, what it means is that then these water bodies are also protected. We have ecotourism sites that are visited. They are not consumed, but they provide opportunity for entertainment and research, and then realization as well. And then we receive a lot of tourists in these areas, and there are more of these sites to be developed. Lately, we've all been talking about climate action. Most of the nature-based solutions depend on this forest for sequestration of carbon. Biodiversity conservation, all the small organisms and other animals that we find in the forest. It is the protection of the forest that provides the kind of ecosystem, a habitat for them to be able to survive. I will also give you an idea about the direct employment jobs that's created as a result of the forest. The private wood industry puts the figure of employment jobs created by that sector at 290,000 employees. The National Afforestation Program engages about 75,000 individuals. We have the youth in afforestation, we have those who are producing seedlings, we have the modified tonja system, we have other interventions that we have rolled out. I will get to some of those interventions later. We have forest management and research, which employs about 4,500 workers. The Forestry Commission itself employs about 4,300 workers. We have FORIC and other research organizations that are purposely researching also and protecting the forest. All these employments are as a result of the presence of the forest. If we lose the forest, we may lose all these job opportunities. The forest-based civil society organizations, they put their figure directly at 220. Then we have the ecotourism direct employment in the forest, not the private sector, at 200. We are yet to get the figure for the private sector. That will increase this figure further. So the direct employment is almost 370,000 in the sector. Of course, there will be a lot of indirect employment in this area. Now let's look at how the forest either increase or reduces. So we are going to look at especially the drivers of deforestation and forest degradation. This information is going to tell us the key, activities that impact negatively on the forest. Key among them is agricultural expansion. Throughout the years, as a minister mentioned, from the 1900s, consistently, the activity that has the most impact on the forest is agricultural expansion. I think in this area, other farmer groups and then the Cocoa Board and the Forestry Commission are working towards improving the productivity of and the yield of some of these crops, so that lesser land will be put on the agriculture, whilst we improve upon the output per acre or per hectare of this land. But agriculture expansion remains the major impact so far as the forest is concerned. We have the traditional illegal logging, chainsawing, and fuel wood that impacts on the size and then the quality of the forest. Mining has come up strongly recently. We have mining both small and large scale in the forest reserve. Especially the illegal one, which is not controlled, is impacting negatively on the forest. Wildfires is very, very important. So the Forestry Commission has been putting a lot of energy in the sensitization, education of communities in this particular area. You can plant so much, you can protect so many hectares, but if you have fire racing through the forest, you lose a lot of the forest. I would like to also put on record that I know a lot of the forest development is as a result of natural regeneration. And so if you have wildfire racing through the forest, you lose all these forest on the land. Overgrazing, we have some cattle overgrazing, especially for planted trees in some areas of the country, especially in the Bono and some part of the Ashanti region. Infrastructural development, as we continue to build more houses, construct more roads, dams, and all those infrastructure, we impact on the forest, and settlements are increasing. Anytime you go to your town or village and you have a new site, definitely some trees would have been cut, and this is also impacting on the size and quality of the forest. I want to zero in on some of the key drivers of deforestation. One of them is illegal logging. This is as a result of unauthorized removal of timber from the forest. This is causing loss of revenue to the state, and then also the chiefs and people and the communities where the trees would have been felled without authorization. It also causes forest degradation. What happens is that when a license or a permit is given to a concessionaire or a contractor to go and fell a tree, a proper plan would have been put in place to select the type and number of trees that the contractor will take in a particular compartment. So that is controlled, and then there will be post-harvest checks to make sure that the right thing is done. For an illegal logger or chainsaw person, when he goes to the forest, he will just be cutting the trees without recourse to whether the species or the type. So you lose a lot of these trees, and then the processing is also not done well. So for them to produce one article or one item, you would need more of the trees to be able to do that, because the yield out of those trees would be lower. It also fosters a lot of corruption in the system if you are having a lot of illegal logging. We have been collaborating with the Public Procurement Authority, and very soon we'll have the documents that will spell out how we are to procure particularly lumber for government contracts, because government contracts consists of one of the huge extractions from the forest. All the wood that goes in the government contracts, we want to make sure that once the person goes in and prepares his tender, he must be able to show evidence of where the lumber is coming from, and this will be coming on very soon. We've also started working to establish lumber depots across the country. The first one is on preparation at the Sifioso area, and we'll be looking at Doma and other areas. What it means is that we'll be creating the opportunity for people to buy legal timber on the domestic market. Because for some areas, when you arrest some of the people, they feel they don't have access to legal timber for their domestic use. We want to look at mining in forest reserves, and to give you an idea of mining, we'll say that prior to 1980, basically what was happening is the artisanal mining, where they were using small implements. So you have few illegalities here and there, and they are using smaller implements. In the mid-1980s, 30 companies were given the opportunity to look at the exploration in the forest reserves. So what it means is that prior to this time, we never had any, license, what's the name, exploration or mining in the forest reserves. By 1997, 17 companies out of the 30 have gone ahead to receive, mining permits to start actual activities on the land. This is what resulted in the companies like Newmont, Trano Mining, and then AGC Kubi. They started mining in the forest reserve by 2003. They have started having real large-scale mining. Let me also make it clear here that small-scale mining, community mining, and other small artisanal mining are not allowed in the forest reserve. So any small-scale mining happening in the forest reserve is an illegality. Large-scale responsible mining with the necessary approvals from the necessary right agencies, and then the right mining lease, and then with a plan to be able to do that are the only ones that are permitted in the forest reserve. I'd like to zero in into illegal mining in forest reserve, and we at this point we would like to look at the what we call the state of play, what is happening at the forest reserves as we speak. Records we have at the ministry indicates that 7 out of the 16 regions have been experiencing some form of illegal mining in those regions. Out of this, 34 reserves have been affected. These are areas where you have significant illegal mining. The total area that has been mapped is about 4,722 hectares. That means that 4,722 hectares of forest land has been impacted. But then this is only the size of the surface. Some of these impacts, result in very deep, holes, and then they excavate a lot of material. That will also impact on the forest because it takes time to get, these topsoils to be able to, get the place revegetated. So it is not only the size, but the impact on our water bodies, the topsoil that is impacted, and the depth of the holes that is created. It may be maybe half a hectare or 1 hectare, but if you look at the depth of the the impact, then of course a lot more work will have to be done to be able to reclaim these lands. We will show you some of the pictures. You can see on the right side, you can see the picture of the Tanonimire Forest Reserve, which is in the Western North region. You can see Bonsa Reserve in the Western region, Apaprama Forest Reserve in the Bekwai district of the Ashanti region. But this is to give you, show you how it looks like. But let's go to the details. The Forestry Commission, directed by the ministry, has tried to profile what exactly is happening in these 34 forest reserves in the 7 regions of impact. So we look at the profile that we have here. It is giving us an idea about the region where the impact is, the forest district, the forest reserve in question, the total size of that forest, and then the size of the forest that has actually been impacted upon. Then we have looked at the classification, and then we've been able to classify the various areas where the impact is based on the difficulty in dealing with the activities of the illegal operators. So we have the green color code as the one of the legends. The green is telling us that this is an area where we've had an illegal activity, but then it is generally under control. That does not mean that we will not from time to time having some of these illegal operators coming in, but generally it is under control so far as the forest managers in that district are concerned. The yellow is also giving us an idea of the area with a minimum difficulty. What it means is that from time to time you have to go and flush people out of this area. We go immobilize machines, but they continue to come back, and our rapid response team will have to mobilize from various districts to be able to contend with these illegal operators. So the green is a better situation than the ones with the yellow. So if you look at the other one, the red is an area where we have active illegal mining activity happening. And these are areas where the Forestry Commission is finding it very difficult to deal with the illegal operators. They are in large numbers. They have large number of machines, and they've recruited armed security. So whilst you have a team working in the night, you have another set of team carrying arms most of the time, AK-47, and guarding those who are working. And I would like to also explain that most of these weapons that they are carrying are not the weapons that the Forestry Commission can contend with. They are carrying AK-47 that can travel about 3 kilometers, whilst the weapons we are having, the semi-automatic, can only go about 300 meters. So what it means is that to be able to fight these guys, you have to get closer to them, at least within 300 meters, to be able to deal with them. Meanwhile, from 3 kilometers away, they can shoot you. And we can give you the statistics of the number of our workers who have been attacked due to the sophistication and then better power and capacity of the illegal operators in this area. So we go to we look at this at Ashanti region. Ashanti region is where we have the red color, the code, red. We have 3 forest reserves that have been classified as the most difficult areas, and these places are having active, illegal mining happening, and they have, the rented security. And it is in the Bekwai districts. All these 3 areas are in the Bekwai district. I'm talking about the Bekwai Forest District. We have the Oda River Forest Reserve. We have the Apraprama Forest Reserve, and we have the Subin Shelter Belt. These are 3 reserves where we're finding it very, very difficult to contend with the activities that are happening there, and I've given you reasons for that. If you look at the other areas, for instance, if you come to the western region, you have the Asakregwa area where you have the Tonton, and then the Totua forest reserves. They are largely, being managed by the district office of the Forestry Commission, so far as legality. But Furi Forest Reserve is also an area where you deal with them, but then they continue to come back. So we are spending a lot of effort, a lot of resources in dealing with this area. So most of the revenue we collect from the timber subsector then ends up, fighting illegal mining. So it goes on. You can go to Western North, where we have the Ayuan East Forest Reserve, the Afao Hills Forest Reserve, Upper Wasa Forest Reserve, Tanoyuan Forest Reserve. Those are areas where illegal mining has been happening from time to time. But Tanonimre is a forest reserve that gained wild attention. But as we speak today, it's largely under control due to the effort of the Forestry Commission and the company that is that is extracting timber from that forest reserve. Western North is also the same. We come to areas around the central, eastern regions, but for most of you, you may not be aware, but there are illegal activities also in the Savannah region, around the Bole area. The forest is Yarada Forest Reserve. Upper East region, we have illegal mining activities there. Around the Boku area, Bolgatanga area, we have illegal activities around those areas. So we are showing some of the pictures of what is happening at some of these forest areas. One of the forests that we want to also speak to is the Etiwa forest, Etiwa Rainforest Reserves. We've been hearing a lot of noise about and then comments about Etiwa Forest Reserve, but it's the issue is that the whole area is described as a Tiwa, but if you look at the forest reserve itself, it is the area that is shaded green. The other surrounding area that you have, whether violet or purple, the yellow and different colors, they are legal mining concerns. So when you have mining there, and most of the time will be called and will be prompted that there is illegal mining. These are reserves, these are forests outside the gazetted forest reserve, and then most of them have the legal documents to mine in those areas. So from time to time you have few movement from the outside forest reserve into the forest reserve, and then they will be called upon to deal with it appropriately. Then we have security concerns. I've explained already about the illegal mining operations, the ones that have sophisticated weapons that we are finding difficult to deal with. Now, for most of them, the modus operandi is to work in the night. You go to the area and you find the excavators or the implements outside the forest reserve in some of the adjoining communities, packed. And it is difficult to confiscate those excavators that are outside the forest reserve. But chances are that they move in the night into the forest reserve. So now we are putting some of our workers to try to deal with those issues, and it is very difficult to deal with illegal operators who are carrying weapons in the night. We also have our workers having a military training, and then that is to help us to deal with some of those illegal activities. As I mentioned earlier, we have other drivers like wildfires, agricultural expansion, cattle grazing, and infrastructure. I would like to give you an idea about what we have been doing in terms of law enforcement. And this picture shows some of our workers undergoing training at the Estuary military camp. So far, we have trained about 974 workers, frontline workers of the Forestry Commission at the Estuary military camp to deal with these illegal mining activities. We already have our own team that deals with illegal logging, but these people have been trained purposely to deal with illegal mining. We formed them into groups, and they have been trained in weapon handling and how to deal with some of these difficult situations. We've procured about 1,000 pump action guns. They have been trained properly in handling. Some places have been prepared to keep these weapons and the proper documents, and then the monitoring is being done. As I said, we've created 13 rapid response team. We hope to increase the number to about 30, but we'll need logistics to be able to support them to be able to handle some of the difficulties in the forest. We've also we find out that it's also very difficult sometimes when we go to the courts for prosecution. So the Forestry Commission, with the help of the Judicial Service, have trained about 30 managers as prosecutors to assist in prosecution. As a result of the work we do, we've been mobilizing some of these equipment that we find in the forest. As we speak today, this first quarter, up to April, we've mobilized about 35 excavators, but they still continue to bring excavators to the field. It is difficult to move them out of the place because they remove the important parts. And lately, we have been very difficult even to, low loaders to pick the excavators because they wouldn't help in taking. They wouldn't help in taking some of those excavators from the forest area. This picture shows you some of the equipment that have to be bent: the pumping machines, the the other equipment that are used to wash in that area. We've been arresting a lot of the both the Chinese and some of these illegal operators, but notably among them are the people who will call normal laborers. These laborers, they cannot afford an excavator. You find them, you go to the court, and they are giving some fine because they just came to provide hired labor. But we think that if we are able to get to the people who are employing these people, then this problem will cease. Cattle, I've mentioned, is a problem already. Illegal logging is a problem. To be able to control some of the issues beyond the illegal mining, like illegal logging, we are applying technology to some of the work we do. So we are able to track, as we speak today, the movement of trees in terms of whether it is processed or it is in the log form, right from the forest to the market. So we are able to tell whether a particular lumber is coming from a tree that has received a permit to be harvested. So we're talking about traceability of some of these species. Working with under the voluntary partnership agreement signed between Ghana and the UK, this has become possible. There's a lot of engagement in this area, and we have established the Ghana wood tracking system. And this allows us to track the wood, and it also allows us to do auditing of the on the domestic market to know where this wood, then the lumber are coming from. I'll move quickly to the area of improving the forest landscape, that is restoration and climate change. Apart from protecting the forest, part of the work we do is to add on to the existing forest estate. So we have the operating under the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy. We've been able to develop about 690,000 hectares of forest. This is across the country. Some of the areas that we have planted are areas that have been degraded, and new areas that have been released to us. Lately, we've been able to launch the Green Ghana Initiative by the President, and that is also adding to what we are doing. As you are aware, we were able to exceed the 5 million target in 2021, the same for the 20 million in 2022, and we are hoping to meet the target for this year. We're also having other projects that is supposed to deal with how we review our programs, and this has been done by inaugurating a committee to look at the whole the plantation strategy. This was done last week. We are doing reclamation. There's been pilot reclamation that is already happening. As we speak, through the Ghana investment program, we are doing about almost 100 hectares and 1,500 hectares in total. Ghana Landscape Restoration Small-Scale Mining Project is also going to embark on 1,500 hectares of land. This is an example of some of the areas that we've started reclaiming under the National Alternate Employment Livelihood Program. The Ghana Cocoa Forest Red Plugs Program, as we are aware, is also embarking on interventions that seeks to improve upon our forest landscape and also give some benefits to the local communities so that they can help them to improve upon their agroforestry production. We are working on this together with the Ghana Cocoa Board, and I'm happy to also mention the figure that was confirmed by the President as $4.8 million has already been received under this project. Total, if we are able to continue to improve upon the forest and it is validated, we have the chance to draw down on $50 million. The Ghana Share Landscape Reduction Project was also launched by the Vice President, and it also seeks to improve upon the share landscape in the Savannah Zone. It covers the northern east, Savannah, Upper East, and Upper West area. We are working with the private sector to be able to achieve this goal. Moving forward, we hope we are working with Talu Oil to be able to get an intervention in the transitional zone. We hope to sign the payment agreement before the end of this year. Definitely, in terms of our strategy, we do sensitization, stakeholder engagement, continuous surveillance of the area. A lot of law enforcement, which I've indicated already, and then the reclamation and restoration of mine outsides. What are our challenges? Key among the challenges are the logistical support that we require. Then we need the security information, what to be able to know at a quick notice what is happening in the forest. That's to do with intelligence. Then adequate funding to deal with some of the issues we are having, to pay for seedlings and other issues. In the way forward, we want to intensify surveillance, engage the military to do surgical operations in the hotspot areas, source for additional funding under the carbon market support, and then do more collaboration with our chiefs and then local authorities. Thank you, Minister.
Honorable Minister, Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission, where do I start from? This is one of the most insightful and comprehensive presentations I have ever heard on any specific sector. And I was particularly impressed about the fact that we didn't even have the mappings, the data, the satellite imagery or anything. And over the years, you mentioned that the deforestation happened over a century ago, and we didn't even have the data. So beyond what was happening in someone's community, everything else was based on speculation. But now you have given us a starting point. We have the data to compare to what's happening now, what will happen in the future, and see how best we can move forward. And finally, I was particularly impressed about the solutions. Although we have many problems within the forestry sector, but the depth and the beauty of this presentation was the fact that it was driven by solutions, not promises, but what has actually been done on the ground. And a few highlights of those are the Green Ghana initiative, and Minister mentioned that on June 9, we'll be planting 10 million additional trees. Our trees at the Ministry of Information here are growing. We are nurturing them. We also mentioned the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy, the Youth in Plantation or Afforestation, Forest Investment Program, and the fact that you are training 974 frontline workers at Asuchari in weapon handling, and you have purchased about 1,000 pump action guns to deal with the small-scale mining sector. And one big takeaway from this presser is that small-scale mining is not allowed in the forest reserves. So if anybody is holding a hoe or a pickaxe and say they have permits, this presser should settle in your mind that they don't have the permission of the ministry or the commission to mine in the forest reserve. Also on timber, you mentioned some very interesting points about the fact that people may want to purchase timber, but if they don't know where the legal ones can be purchased, then they have to resort to the black market. But you mentioned the intention to establish lumber depots at Sefrioso and also at Doma. Interestingly, you mentioned that even still on the small-scale mining, you currently have 13 rapid response teams, and you are trying to expand that to 30, so that all those who are doing illegal mining will be faced boot for boot. So thank you so much for that rich, insightful presentation, and I believe viewers at home will rally behind the Honorable Minister, yourself, the government, in the fight to preserve our forests and also to increase our reserves. On that note, I will invite questions. If they are based on policy, Honorable Minister is here to take them. If there are some technical questions, the Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission is here to take them. For time, we will take about 2 sets. So please, if you have any question, this is the best time to ask. You mention your name and affiliation and then proceed to ask. I can see 2 hands at the back. Armstrong, John. Okay, yes. Please, let's start. Okay, and then Hanan, and I can see another hand here as well.
Thank you very much, Minister. My name is Obed. I report for GH1 Television. Some few weeks ago, a report was in the media space from no mean person than Professor Frimpong Boateng. I want to get Minister's reaction from the reports. The fight against Galamsey, if we are told high members of government are involved, then it's suggesting to us that it seems to be a cost-90 job. What is the assurance that indeed government is indeed fighting the Galamsey menace? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question, John. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Timothy Nimba, report for the Daily Graphic. In the presentation by the Forestry Commission CEO, he did mention that some 34 forest reserves are under threat by illegal miners. And this translates into some 4,722 hectares of land. And with the picture he painted, what it means is that some of them, the pits and other things are deep and loose. And he thought, and from what I gather from him, the operators in these areas are heavily armed and other distance. And the Forestry Commission feels helpless in the situation. I want to find out from the Minister what steps will be taken to address this situation, given what has been presented now. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
My name is Abdul Hanan Adam. I work with GH1 TV and Star FM. I want to find out from the Minister, about a year ago, there was this issue about the Achimota Forest and then the Oyo family. I want to find out from the Minister how, where we are with the issue, whether the issue has been resolved. And secondly, I want to find out from the Forestry Commission, if the Forestry Commission or the Ministry will answer.
Can you repeat the question?
The first question has to do with the issue involving the Oyo family. The Achimota Forest, yes, it's a saga.
Come again?
Oh, sorry, my Ghana is not good. And secondly, I want to find out from the Forestry Commission whether it was proper for you to procure 1,000 pump-action machine guns, making, in reference to the presentation you made about the fact that these illegal miners are sophisticated with weapons that are out of your reach, and when you go into, arrest these perpetrators, you are unable to do so. So I want to find out what informed your decision to procure this pump-action machine gun, knowing the fact very well that these machines will not be able to fight the illegal miners. Thank you.
Hanan. Okay, I saw 2 more hands, John and Armstrong. Or your questions have already been asked? Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, Honorable Minister, just to...
Name and affiliation.
My name is Joseph Armstrong, Gold, Alibi TV3. Just want to ask, over the years, we started planting some trees nationwide. I want to find out how many of these trees so far have survived. And then also, when you were speaking, sir, you made mention about the fact that bushfire, also illegal logging, and activities of illegal mining have destroyed part of our forest reserves. I heard you mention that of the illegal mining, the number of forests that's there, but that of bushfire, illegal logging, you didn't mention the extent of damage. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Mr. Atta, okay. Mr. Mensah.
Thank you. Atta Mensah from Ghana News Agency. Yeah, from Mr. Alote's presentation, I was happy when he said Ghana received $4.5 million from its REDD Plus initiative And if we do our things right, we can even get about $50 million. I want to find out how you are going to get that $50 million. Because if you can invest the $4.5 million that we receive from that carbon market, I think we can do something to improve on our effort to draw more from that money. So what effort are you putting in place to get that $50 million? Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. I will invite Honorable Minister and Mr. Alote back for their responses and maybe come back to you for follow-ups. Minister.
So thank you very much for those very useful questions, and it is a clear demonstration that, as it should be, a good number of us are very interested in these matters of our forest reserves. The questions are rich, in my view. I think Obed from Bloomberg, correct, wants to find out about my views on the Professor Frimpong Boateng report. First of all, I think it's important for us to situate that matter in its proper context, and it's absolutely important. This is the first time I'm having the opportunity to speak to this matter directly. I've made some comments. Last week, a question was posed. I made some general comments, but this is the time I'm getting an opportunity to speak to it specifically. In 2017, the president took the view that he will establish an interministerial committee on illegal mining. At the time, I was deputy chief of staff, and so I was very much involved, and I'm privy to the president's thinking and the steps he took. He established this interministerial committee on illegal mining, and the committee's mandate was to deal with matters of illegal mining in our country. As you know, there's a ministry which has a mandate, which is the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, to be responsible for dealing with illegal mining, as we are doing now. But in the wisdom of the president, and it's a wisdom that I applaud and I share, he wanted relevant ministers to come under one umbrella, given the complexity of illegal small-scale mining, and be able to deal with the issue of illegal small-scale mining. He did not appoint his Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to chair that committee, in the president's own wisdom and thinking. And I think that the motivation for it is one that is understandable, because somehow, if you have the minister who is involved in the thick of affairs, it's almost like a judge in his own court, sort of. So he appointed the then Minister for Environment, Science, Innovation and Technology, Professor Frimpong Boateng, to chair IMSEM. And therefore, from 2017 to 2021, Professor Frimpong Boateng was the man who was given the authority, the mandate, the remit to deal with illegal small-scale mining in Ghana. And it was specific. Remember, it was exclusively to deal with illegal small-scale mining, not large-scale mining, not forestry, none of that, just illegal small-scale mining. The professor took a lot of steps, did a lot of work, back and forth. I'm sure we are all very privy to the history of the work of the IMSEM. What is my view of it? The jury is out there. The jury is out there. The Ghanaian people have to make a judgment of the work Professor Frimpong Boateng and IMSEM did between 2017 and 2021. I am not the one to pass judgment. I'm not the one to say they did a good job, they didn't do a good job, they succeeded or they failed. I think it would be most unfair to Professor Frimpong Boateng, who somehow is my predecessor in the management of illegal small-scale mining. If I'm now here passing judgment on the work he did, I mean, that will will be so undignified, and I will not do that. Of course, I should point out that there are things about the work of the NSIM that I find valuable, and that I am working with my team to factor into the work we are doing today. There are things about the work that I may not adopt today for many reasons. Maybe even circumstances have changed, or the terrain has changed, and so on and so forth. But always remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Professor Frimpong Boateng's report covers 2017 to 2021. It's a report of his stewardship, of his work. It's not the report of my stewardship from 2021 to date. So, I mean, with the greatest, I've heard people make the point that Frimpong Boateng's report shows, we failed. Minister Jinapor has failed. Akufo-Addo has failed. He's not written a report about my stewardship. I think a time will come when the jury will be constituted to pass judgment on my own efforts. I hope, I pray to God that judgment will be favorable, but you can never tell. So that is that. I mean, that is my attitude. That is my attitude to that matter. But I will conclude, though, by saying one thing, that reports cannot be sacrosanct. So even the report that the Forestry Commission CEO has just presented, as impressive as it is to me, and it appears it is impressive to some of you, take it from me, an hour from now, you will find civil society pundits critique it, as it should be. They will challenge the report that he's given, the figures, the analysis, the measures, the outcomes, and so on and so on. And that is how a democracy should function. And so, a suggestion that Professor Frimpong Boateng's report is sacrosanct, is scripture, with the greatest of respect to the good old professor and to his report. I don't think that is how we have to look at it. It has to be interrogated, it has to be examined, and as I said, those parts of it we can take on board, we should. Those parts of it we should jettison, we should. But at the end of the day, what is important is that we remain focused and do the work of the good people of this country. That will be my response to the Frimpong Boateng report. The gentleman wanted to know about high members of government who are involved in illegal mining. I mean, the response to that is the same as the response that the president is giving over and over again. If we have evidence that anybody is involved in illegal mining, not just high-profile officials of government, whether it's chiefs or it's police security people or it's Forestry Commission officials or it's media people or it's ordinary citizens or it's Minister Jinapor, the full force of the law must be brought to bear on the people. So the most important thing is evidence. And I believe that the security agencies are very wide awake and picking intelligence. There have been one or two occasions where some people have been sanctioned because of their own conduct. I mean, one or two DCs have been removed, police people and military people, one or two people, have been brought to book in respect of allegations leveled against them. But the most important thing is that if we have the evidence and we have the basis for it, let us proceed against those people. We cannot win this fight if we begin to pick and choose and say because this person is a minister or that person is that, the person can be involved in illegalities and the person will be allowed to go scot-free. That will not work. The law must be blind to those kinds of considerations. And I think that it should be so for all other crimes. And that will be the response I'll give. Timothy, from Daily Graphic, 34 forest reserves, 4,000 hectares. I mean, are we helpless? No, Timothy, we are not. I mean, you saw from the presentation that the Forest Commission CEO is giving that measures are being put in place to be able to deal with the red spots. And the ministry got a commission to undertake that tedious, rigorous work of going into the forest reserves of our country, classifying the various infractions and determining which one of them are green, as he said, and green being what they are able to manage, which ones are yellow, and yellow being those that they are able to manage largely, and the red are those that they are having challenges with, and which is why Forestry Commission officials are being given some form of military training as Suchore. It's supposed to help them to be able to deal with those kinds of issues. The pump action guns is a national security injunction, which is that no force in Ghana can wield more sophisticated weapons than the Ghana Armed Forces. So the Forestry Commission cannot wield the weapons that the G3s and the AK-47s that the Armed Forces wield. Otherwise, if the Forestry Commission one day stands up and says they are taking over Ghana, what do we do? So at every material point in time, even the police, with the greatest of respect to the police, the armory that the police wield is one step lower than the armory that the Ghana Armed Forces wield, because the Armed Forces has the overall mandate to protect our territorial integrity and the stability of our country. And so that is why they buy pump actions. But I'm also happy to report to you that this matter is being dealt with. At the cabinet retreat at Peduasi, this particular issue was discussed extensively, and the president is directed the National Security Coordinating Committee. The National Security Coordinating Committee is distinct from the National Security Council. That is a committee chaired by the Minister for National Security, Honorable Kandapa, and populated by relevant ministers, of which I am a member. And this discussion has begun as to what support we have to give to the Forestry Commission to be able to deal with the red zones. Perhaps it may be, I don't know, the decision has not been made yet, but I'm just speculating. It may be that we'll have a contingent of armed forces, the Ghana Armed Forces, embedded with the Forestry Commission to deal with these particular red zone areas. That discussion is ongoing. It is my hope and belief that in a couple of weeks we'll conclude on that matter and we'll be able to deal with this particular matter. Yes, Hanan, GH1, wants to know about Owu family in Achimota Forest. Well, I'm not going to bore you with the history, but what I have to say to you is that following the public discourse about that particular matter, I constituted a team chaired by the Honorable Benito Usubio. They finished their work. They presented a report. I've examined the report, and I'm satisfied with the recommendations they've made. Suffice for me to point out that part of the recommendations will mean that we will have a certain buffer zone in the forest reserve, which will protect the core part of the forest reserve, and it will mean a reduction in the acreage that was supposed to be granted to the Owu family and so on and so forth. But we're going through the process. We're working with the presidency and Attorney General, and when it is all over, when it is all concluded, I don't want to prejudice the processes we are going through, we will definitely update the country accordingly. Procure Joseph Armstrong of TV3 is asking about survival rate. In 2021, the survival rate was 80% of the trees we planted, the 27 million trees, is that correct? 25? 26 million trees. The survival rate was 80%. 2022, the survival rate is 70% plus. And one may ask why the reduction in survival rate. It is because in 2021, we planted 5 million trees. But in 2022, we planted 26 million trees. And therefore, the share size or the share number, increase in numbers, will mean that managing and nurturing them becomes a bit more difficult than managing and nurturing 5 million trees, which is the reason for the very marginal reduction in survival rate. But I also have to point out that we have drastically reduced the number of trees we are going to plant this year to 10 million because we want to free up the resources of the Forestry Commission for them to focus a lot more on nurturing these trees to maturity. Finally, GH1 is talking about how to get the $50 million. Okay. GNA, sorry. GNA wants to know how we will get a $50 million from carbon market and all of that. As you know, the carbon market has become a very important platform or important instrument of raising funds. I mean, the whole very topical issue of climate change is meant that there is a component of the efforts that the global community is deploying to clamp down on climate change, which is carbon markets. And in simple terms, it simply means like countries like Ghana will plant a lot more trees, engage in afforestation, preserve them, and then get carbon credits. And if we get a carbon credit, we can then trade it off on the carbon market. I mean, there are companies in the developed, industrialized world who flare a lot of carbon dioxide, and they will pay us money to enable them flare the carbon dioxide so that it will offset the afforestation and the credit that we get here in Ghana. We are busy developing a policy on that, and we are vigorously working on that sector. There's a lady who is here, Madam Rosalind, who is in charge of the climate change department of the Forestry Commission, and they are working flat out day and night to make sure that we're able to tap a lot more out of that. A lot more funds, God willing, are going to come. As you know, we signed a letter of intent at in Glasgow on the LEAF Coalition that is on board, the FCLP, the Forest and Climate Leadership Partnership, that we are also pursuing, and hopefully we should be able to raise sufficient funding to continue with our policy of aggressive afforestation and reforestation. Thank you very much.
Okay, because of time, I wanted us to stop here, but I've still seen some hands, so I'll take only 2 follow-up questions. Okay, priority to those who have not asked any questions, so that we will take Minister's concluding remarks. So, Nana Poku, and I saw another hand at the back. Yes. Okay.
Right. My name is Bernard Atto Arthur from United Television, UTV. Pacho mesrena makatwi kakra. Me pese me TV forestry boss no ho. Edwumayefo dodo ahe na oma tofom. Enam say aperi ewo kwaye mu with enipa omukura weapons ni omo edwumaye no oma tofom like oma baby over the years. Omumu ahe so na sustain. What level? We want to know the level or the degree of injury. And what kind of support are they getting from the employer?
Okay, thank you for the question. So the last question, Nana Poku.
Yeah, good morning, Honorable Minister. I want to find out from the Forestry Commission boss. Are you considering the cultivation of bamboo, since it has a very high commercial value? I learned China do very well. It has a lot of multiple uses. So is Ghana also going to consider the use or the planting of bamboo so that we can reap a lot from it? My second question, recently there was a news reportage that suppliers of seedlings to the Forestry Commission for the Green Ghana, they didn't get their money from the ministry. How far is it now? Are they going to pay? If they're going to pay, when? Because there was a lot of furore about it. Now, my last question: are we going to develop Ghana? Are we going to develop new species, new tree species? Because some of them are extinct now. I can mention some of them that when I was young, I was in the forest rules. I knew some of them, but most of them are extinct now. Is the CSIR and the Forest Commission collaboration, as it were, to develop new species for the country to do the afforestation bit? Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Okay, so we'll take Minister's responses and also his final comments.
So let me invite the CEO of Forestry Commission to very quickly respond to the issue of how many of your officials have died, how many have been injured, and what welfare system do you have in supporting them? Very briefly.
Yes, I would say that about 6 people were shot last year. In December last year alone, 2 people were shot. And then another person in Ashanti, 2 in Greater Accra. So 6 people were shot last year. I can get you later all the information over the years, how many people have been shot, and then the situation as it pertains now. I also like to say that the HR, the Human Resource Department, has plans that we deal with, but all bills are taken over by the Commission, and we have plans to deal with some of the people who are engaged and they get into this situation, especially the people under the Wildlife Division who work in the night.
Yeah, then the second and final question, which is on bamboo cultivation, payment for seedlings, the new tree species. For some reason, mercifully for me, the people who supply the seedlings, they don't seem to come after me. They are always very interested in my Deputy Minister, Benito. It's good news. Even in the youth, even the personnel of youth in afforestation, when they come to the ministry, and I'm in my office up there on the 3rd floor, and while they are down, the person they keep chanting at, and it's Benito for Isikabre. So, Honorable Benito, better come here. They won't be happy hearing me. It's you they want to hear.
Thank you, Minister. And for the person who asked that question regarding, I'll start with the issue of the debts that we owe some of these seedling providers. Yes, we have admitted it. The Forestry Commission gave the contracts to them, and as such, they have compiled a list of how much they owe each and every individual one of them, and this comes from all across the various districts. Yes. This has been put in a document form. We vetted it, and it's been submitted to the Ministry of Finance for assistance and payment. Yes, so we have been seriously working on it. We are giving it all the necessary attention that it deserves. Yes. The next is on bamboo. Yes. Bamboo is also in our strategy as well. As we speak, in the year 2021, about 100,000 bamboo was planted as part of the Green Ghana initiative. And then in 2022, we did around 150,000 bamboo seedlings. This year, we intend to ramp it up to around 300,000. We have also come up with a program, which is, I would say, is an initiative that came from the Queen Mothers Association in Ashanti region. And we are partnering them to help them to have bamboo plantations. It's part of our education and then sensitization drive to ensure that at least going forward, Ghanaians will see bamboo as a very important resource. You know, if you go to the forest districts, when they see bamboo on farms, they burn it because to them they see it as a nuisance. It's about time we let Ghanaians know of the 1,000 and over uses of bamboo. We have resourced our office in Accra here, that's the IMBA, the International Bamboo and Rattan Association office, which for West Africa is based in Ghana. That office has been resourced. It used to be in a Chowk room, and we've moved it to Accra here so that we give it the necessary attention that it deserves. So we are working on bamboo as well. Thank you.
See, I was right in inviting him. Yes, so I think that's it, yeah? Yeah, that's it. So thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister, and thank you very much, Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission. As I said in my introductory remarks, very soon we will appear before you again to make a presentation on the very vast national issue of Galamsey, and the nature of that presentation will not be different from what we've done for the forestry reserves of our country. We're going to be very candid, we're going to be very open, and we're going to lay out the issues before you. One of the key reasons why we do this is that we acknowledge that we are not a repository of all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of these issues. And so as we've come here to present our strategy and plan through the media to the country, I know the discussion will begin, and through which we will be able, hopefully, to enrich our policy, enrich our strategy for the good of our country. I want to conclude by reiterating the commitment of President Akufo-Addo. The President's commitment is sincere, is honest, and indeed is grounded on late thought-out policies to preserve the natural resources of our country. And as you've seen from the presentation, in all humility and modesty, a lot is being done, a lot is being achieved. The Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, his directors, his deputies, and officials of the Forestry Commission have done the yeoman and woman's job for our country. And I think that they deserve commendation. And we want to assure the country that we will continue in that direction. On this, our two-pronged approach: protect and preserve the existing forests of our country, and then engage in aggressive afforestation and reforestation. So keep what you have and add on. It is the only way Ghana will become a forest country in this country. I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Chief Executive of the Forestry Commission, our Chief Director, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning and this afternoon. And once again, on behalf of the Minister for Information, Honorable Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, I would like to thank you for making time, and especially to Honorable Minister for the consistency in giving information so that we can enrich national discourse. So thank you so much for making time today. Once again, I would like to thank GTV, UTV, Adum TV, and Joy News for covering this press briefing. Thank you.